Welcome, Mira, Rubin, here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic, what is today's topic? Today's topic is life is happening for me. And this conversation is really going to give us some perspective on the past and how when life is unfolding, it often doesn't feel like it's happening for us. But when we look back in retrospect, we can see that what often seems like a crisis is in fact a gift. So it should be an interesting conversation. Before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding into your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells and your organs and bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, energizing, and electrifying all your cells, all your molecules, all your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's just gently press our palms together. And very, very softly, 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 rub your fingers against your palms just to feel that sensation, that tickling, that tingling, and allow yourselves to become present right here, right now, into these marvelous physical forms that enable us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, Tori. So good to have you here with us this morning, and welcome to everybody else who's joining us. And I often talk about my hypotheses about life and ideas about how things work and points of view or beliefs that we can choose to adopt in order to experience a greater richness in life. Good morning, Rosalind. Welcome. So good to have you here with us. So one of these beliefs or vantage points that I have found to be profoundly useful and powerful is that life is not happening to me, it's happening for me and through me. And what this opens a gateway to, or it opens an experience of. Good morning, Lisa. Welcome. So good to have you here with us this morning. What this opens up in our experience is the possibility of allowing the perfection of life, allowing that everything's okay, that things are unfolding as they are meant to, that it's for our good, that it's for our benefit rather than something that we have to fight and struggle against. And that the very, very often the conflicts and the crises that we experience in life, maybe always, are opportunities for growth, transformation, insight. And this is the case particularly when we have that vantage point, when we're looking at life through the lens of opportunity. Then when we're faced with a challenge and a crisis, we can allow ourselves to move into the question. Again, curiosity is the antidote for fear and depression and all kinds of other things. We can move ourselves into the space of the question, what what is the blessing in this? What is the gift in this? What's available for me to learn? What more can I see in this circumstance? How can I utilize this situation or circumstance to be able to grow? How can I use this current possibility to expand? How might I see things differently to recognize this as a gift? And, in one respect, this is mental manipulation. You could consider that to be the case. But then, if so, my question is, what isn't? What isn't all about the way that we perceive and receive ideas and information and experiences? So when we have the opportunity to actively participate in the way that we digest and ingest and metabolize information and experience, we can be creating a context that supports us more effectively in life. So if we're seeing something as a problem, maybe there's an opportunity to look at it through a different lens. And by exploring that possibility, we can expand our capacity to see. I look back at situations in my life that I considered massive challenges and that could at the time have been excruciatingly painful. And yet so many of those situations have contributed to the expansion of my capacity as a human being to be compassionate, to be present, to be aware, to have perspective. So Rosalind says fixed mindset versus growth-oriented mindset. Thank you. Appreciate the obstacle rather than avoiding. Beautiful, Rosalind. Exactly. Like an obstacle is a perception. When we define something as an obstacle, we are creating the resistance. When we recognize something that we're defining or experiencing as an obstacle, as a possible opportunity, then what happens is we generate an opening. And Lisa says, I look for a reason behind it. Then the lesson I'm learning or supposed to be learning. Some think it's nuts, but that's my process. So I think, Lisa, that process is not dissimilar to a process that I engage in too, is like coming from the question why. Good morning, Dennis. Good morning. Good morning. So good to have you here with us. We're talking about life happening for us. And so I guess when I ask the question why, that's trying to find a way to understand something. Like when Maggie died, I kept, and I still, wow, there's still a catch in my heart and my throat just talking about her right now. Wow, it's amazing how close to the surface this stuff can be without your awareness, right? It's amazing. Anyway, lots of emotion there. We want to try and understand things. When we, especially better for us than around us, Lisa says, life is happening for us, and that's a better perspective than life is happening around us. I agree 100%, Lisa. Yet we get to engage in life more deeply. But anyway, asking the why questions, sometimes there aren't answers, but despite the fact that whatever answers we may come up with are fabrications, I think that they are attempts to soothe our soul, that why did this tragedy happen, and we're considering something a tragedy, and in retrospect maybe it isn't a tragedy. Thank you, Tori. Thank you. Many hugs. Tori says you need to remind yourself they're always with you. Yeah. Oh boy, I don't know, it's bizarro that I seem to cry more easily with you guys than on my own. And here I am, like crying in front of the world where, like by myself, not so much. But that's that I do have my moments, I have to say. Anyway, we can, even in tragedy, we can see the gift, and not necessarily at the time that it's happening, but when we have the grace of time, when we have the perspective or the distance perhaps that time can provide, then the perspective, Dino, it's so good to have you here this morning. I'm really delighted to see you, and thank you. Thank you for that. Time, we say time heals all wounds. It's really interesting. I think that that's not entirely true. Time shifts the experience of pain anyway. But healing the wounds is something that we get to engage with actively, So, but anyway, back to life happening for us. We can look at our lives and say, oh, all these years wasted doing this and that and the other thing before I found my purpose and my direction. And I think if you start looking back at your life, like I had several incarnations this life in terms of business or career or jobs, whatever. I spent years as a sales rep, and I spent years as an instructor, a software teacher and instructor. And now I sort of have a dual thing going on where I am being a coach and also a sustainability advocate and evangelist. And what's really interesting to look at is how these prior incarnations in this life have served me in my current incarnation, in my current expression. And I think that we can look at what we've learned, the skills that we've gotten, and the trajectory. It may seem like really convoluted, our pathway through life, but if we look at that and appreciate it, we can find confirmation of the notion that life is happening for us. Like there's some kind of plan. Like, in my sales career, it was a training ground in so many ways. I was so socially maladjusted or inept. I was really, truly socially inept. And through the years in sales, what I learned was how to communicate with people on a more superficial level. Part of where my social ineptitude came from was just really not being able to engage in small talk, not being able to connect with people on a more superficial level. And the depths at which I would tend to communicate were not publicly palatable or not people, like the conversations that we're engaging in, most people don't want to engage in this kind of conversation, right? So to learn how to communicate and connect with people without, diving into the meaning of life was a huge challenge for me. And I was very shy and I was insecure, et cetera, et cetera. And so being in sales taught me a lot of social skills. And it also taught me persistence. It taught me that no doesn't mean a final door closing. It taught me that it taught me how to manage myself. It taught me many, 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 many things, and things that are tremendously valuable in every other aspect of my life. So that was profound. Elaine says, I'm sitting with a friend preparing to transition, and all those coming into this experience with their own vulnerability to this experience, all emotions available to us in a time like this. The beautiful, peaceful stillness all around us as I love everyone right where they are, including myself. So Elaine, what you're doing, being with this friend, there's some profound holiness to that transition point, where especially if we're able to bring ourselves present to do that consciously, to be truly deeply present. And if anyone does that, Elaine, I know it's you, but to be, the other day we talked about edges and how magical edges are, because they are a transition from one thing to another, one state to another. And in that interface of those edges, there's magic, there's the unknown, there's the unbounded possibility of concept, of being, of experience. And so this friend of yours is very lucky and blessed to have you with them, Elaine, because there's a moving through those edges that opens up all kinds of magic and insight and possibility. Tori says, mindset sometimes oversets our feelings or emotions. You just need to remind yourself loved ones are still with us. Oh, thank you, Tori. Tori's talking about the transition, and Maggie. And she's with me in my heart, and I don't experience her presence, or I haven't experienced her presence. And I miss that. I miss that a lot. And I miss her physicalness. I miss her little feeties, kissing her adorable little feeties. And yeah, just a lot of emotion there. And that's okay. It's okay to be moving from one state to another. And sometimes it takes more time than others. And I recognize that it is very much a function of mindset. So the Dalai Lama says all suffering is due to misconceptualization. And what I'm very aware of is that while we can experience pain, suffering is optional. And so experiencing our pain while it's there to experience allows us to move beyond it. And stifling those experiences embeds the pain and feeds suffering. Elaine says, I've been sitting with people who transitioned for years, and it's an honor to be asked. I believe that, Elaine, 100%. Lisa says, do you ask her to come to you before you fall asleep at your intentions? Tell her you want to see her. Ask her to please visit and let you know she's okay. Whew. This is just lots of emotion. I have asked her if she's here. I've asked, I haven't asked her to come to me. I've just asked if she's around. And so maybe that's a really good idea to ask her to come to me. I'll do that. What I got is she was out and about and enjoying being free. So I'll ask again for sure. So even this, like even with Maggie, life is happening for me. And for my cat too, I'm going to say, because I told you guys that it was my cat who gave me permission to bring Maggie into the family. And it might have been that she was only willing to have her for a certain period of time, because Maggie tortured her. Anyway, there's a lot that is easier since Maggie passed. Certainly my house is neater, but I still really miss her. Whew. Anyway, still, all of that, if we can allow that life is happening for us. I'm not sure who it was that talked about trying to find the reason for things. I don't know if it was you, Lisa. Trying to find, asking, yeah, it was you, Lisa, asking for the reason behind it. And when we ask ourselves questions, we come up with answers for those questions. So Lisa says, oh my gosh, I move through this and through this and through this, and it just keeps coming. It's so interesting, to recognize it, that it, as we feel like we're healing more and more deeply, there may be even deeper and deeper feelings. It's just crazy. Wow. So Lisa says you may not be ready to receive it due to the pain, but she's with you always. Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate that. So Elaine says, no luck involved. Everything unfolds naturally. I love all experiences. Death does not exist. Life just continues to change forms. I love the feeling of being vulnerable and knowing I'm not in control, and allowing life to unfold before me, through me, all as a reflection. I agree, Elaine, and that's so beautifully said. That we're just in different states of consciousness and awareness. And Lisa says it's a process. You have to allow yourself to heal. Thank you. I'm in the process, and you're all part of it, obviously, because I come on here and cry with some regularity. And good morning, Isabel. So good to have you here with us this morning. And Dennis says she's with all of us. Yeah, I think that one of the reasons, or maybe I'm making up, that one of the reasons the tears come relating to Maggie is because she was such a profoundly shared experience with you, and so I know your love for her and the sharing that we that we all experience together. So maybe that's why the vulnerability just really shows up here. It could be a testament to our relationship and your relationship with Maggie too. So Dido says, I read an interesting book by John Kotra. He likened our memories as to a river, and when we let it flow, we're creating ongoing potential for our life in the moment. I spent years trying to get over my mom's death when I was young. Now I embrace my love for her every day. As always, Dido, just rich, rich contribution. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. And we do get to let it flow, you know, like when there's sadness, be sad. And when there isn't, don't feel like you have to bring that sadness into the moment. You know, so Rosalind says, Mira, the Morning Cuppa group continues to hold you in love every day. Thank you so much, Rosalind. Thank you. So this kind of took an unexpected turn. But the thing is that it's so deeply important to have our feelings, feel our feelings when we feel them, and to allow them to let them go when they're not there. You know, like to not carry the sadness into every moment. If it's not there, we don't have to carry it like a burden. We can experience it when we experience it. And we can experience the joy, the fear, the anxiety, whatever, when we're experiencing it. It's the resisting it, those emotions, that embeds them and makes them more deeply entrenched. Elaine says, when life transitions and we feel the grief and the pain, it represents all that we've been grieving and holding on to from many lifetimes. So patience, compassion, and kindness is required as one truly lets go of it all. You know, it's interesting that you say that, Elaine. I think, you know, there have been times in my life where the grief that I felt like the grief of the world. And it may be that a number of us are vehicles for the release of pain through, you know, the pain of humanity. Sometimes it has felt like, you know, the weight of the world, and feeling the pain of humanity that's so much bigger than anything I personally could hold. But I think that maybe some of us are maybe a lot of us are vehicles for the release of this pent up emotion, to enable all of us to collectively heal, and letting it flow. So the more of us learn to let it flow, the better we all will be. And Tori says, my ears are ringing loudly, keep smiling. So I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you and your love and your support and the connection that we have and the magic that we make daily here together. And I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live each weekday morning on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page. And I encourage you to check out all the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network. And I just have so much love and appreciation for you. And I hope to see you back here again real soon.